Hello and welcome to the Phonics on the Go podcast with me, Paul Keegan, your host and your guide through the fascinating world of teaching and learning phonics. Before we start this episode, I would just like to explain my slight absence between this episode and the previous one. My wife, daughter and I are currently going through the process of relocating from China to Spain, so as you can probably imagine, free time is somewhat difficult to come by, but hey, we soldier on. This is episode 3, Phonemic Awareness, part 2. And in this episode, we'll be discussing a very important topic on how to teach phonemic awareness to young learners before introducing the alphabet. As discussed in the previous episode, phonemic awareness is the ability to hear and manipulate individual sounds in spoken words. It is a crucial skill that lays the foundation for reading and spelling. So let's dive into some strategies to help you teach phonemic awareness effectively. Before we jump into the strategies, let's understand the why phonemic awareness is so important. By developing this skill, children learn to recognize and distinguish individual sounds in words. This ability helps them to decode words, understand spelling patterns, and eventually become fluent readers. One effective strategy to start teaching phonemic awareness is sound isolation. You can begin by asking students to identify the initial sound in a word. For example, you can say, "What sound do you hear at the beginning of the word pin?" Encourage them to listen carefully and respond with the correct sound. You can expand on that by asking, "Can you tell me any other words that begin with that sound?" Or even go further, "Can you tell me any words that end with that sound?" Another very important skill is sound blending. I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. This involves combining individual sounds to form words. So, for example, you can start with something really simple like n, a, p, and ask the students to blend the sounds together to form the word nap. Gradually, you can increase the complexity by using longer words or introducing consonant blends. So nap can become snap, snap. Snap can become snap, snaps, and so on and so forth. As well as helping students blend sounds together to make words, you can also encourage them to take those words and break them apart into their individual sounds. This is known as sound segmentation. You can practice this skill by saying a word and have your students identify the sounds they hear. For example, we can use that word nap again, and you can say, "Everybody, nap, nap," and have them respond by telling you the sounds that they heard. You can even say, "I'm going to make a word that's formed from 3 individual sounds. Can you tell me what those sounds are?" Nap. Rhyming. Now, rhyming is a really enjoyable way to develop phonemic awareness. Encourage your students to identify words that rhyme by playing games or singing rhyming songs. This activity helps them to recognize similar sounds at the ends of words and enhances their ability to manipulate sounds. It's also a great introduction to what children will be studying later on after we introduce the alphabet and we start to use word families. So one final and really useful skill that you can develop in your learners is sound manipulation. Once your students have a really good grasp of sound isolation, of blending, of segmentation and rhyming, you can move on to manipulation. This involves substituting sounds within words. So, for example, you can take the word that we've been using today, nap, and let's reverse it. So, p, a, n. What does that make? Pan. Now, you can ask the students to take the beginning of the word and switch out the p for a t, tan. Okay, now let's look at the end of the word and we'll switch the n for a p. What word does that make? Tap, and so on and so forth. Now, When we are doing classroom activities that involve blending, they involve segmentation or manipulation, I've found it's much more engaging and ultimately memorable for the students if they get out of their chair and become physically involved in the activity of learning phonemic awareness. So, for example, if we have students working in small groups, each one of them is representing an individual sound, and you can just have them move around the room and experiment at the different words that they can make just by the order in which they're standing. You can also have differently coloured or differently shaped objects to represent these individual sounds and allow students to just experiment by moving these objects around and seeing the order of the sounds and the words that they can make. So, a quick recap. Today we discussed the importance of teaching phonemic awareness before introducing the alphabet by focusing on sound isolation, blending, segmentation, rhyming, and sound manipulation. You can help your young learners develop a strong foundation in phonics. Remember, phonemic awareness is a vital skill that sets the stage for reading success in the future. Okay, that's enough for today's episode of Phonics on the Go. If you have any thoughts, any questions, or any comments, please feel free to reach out to me via email, info@phonicsonthego.com, via Instagram, phonicsonthego, or simply visit the website, phonicsonthego.com. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next episode.